Member Best, sorry.
Thank you. Morning, Mr Mayor. You've committed to funding free school meals for the next 4 years. Could you let me know which budget that will come from?
What we'll be doing is, as we do normally, and you know this, is when it comes to the budget setting, that's when we set out the expenditure for the next year. I've set out the expenditure in relation to the next year in the budget we set recently. And when it comes to the future 4 years, we'll be setting out the budget setting process where the monies for various expenditure are coming from, including for universal free school meals.
But you've committed to doing it for the next 4 years, so clearly you know you've got the money to do it, and it's a big commitment. It's £500 million, so surely you must know how you are funding that. Because the question I have is that you've previously said you couldn't commit beyond a year-by-year basis. So I'm confused as to how you now suddenly know you can commit to 4 years, so you must have a plan to fund it.
So the previous £275 million we found through business rates. I'm quite clear in relation to the next 4 years. I'm committed to it, and as I've done with other priorities over the last 8 years, we find the monies for those priorities when it comes to the budget setting process, as we'll do in due course.
So how will you find the money? Because obviously the way in which it's been funded before has been through reserves, or it's been through getting larger than expected business rates. Those aren't the kinds of things you can just commit to expecting or knowing that you're going to get, but you've told Londoners that they will have this for the next 4 years. So you must have a plan as to how you are going to fund it. You've previously said that you can't commit to things in perpetuity when I've not got a recurring source of income. So I'm afraid the bad news is that I can't say to Londoners I'll be providing universal free school meals in perpetuity. But you have said that now. You've said you're going to do it for the next 4 years. So in order to make that commitment and that promise to Londoners, you must have a plan. So could you let us know the plan?
Well, I'm not in May 2024 going to set up my budgets for 26, 27 and 28. What I'll be doing is, as I normally do, in the budget setting process, set out the plans when we publish our documents and the budget guidance and so forth.
So will it be coming from reserves? Will it be coming from business rates retention, which are larger than expected? Because you know the formula is also changing on that, so you know these things are occurring. You must have a plan, and to say I simply don't have a plan, you know that's not the truth.
That's not what I said. What I said is we'll be setting out our budget plans when we publish our budget later on this year.
If you could say in your election manifesto that you're going to do it for the next 4 years, you could have given schools and parents that reassurance from day one, and you kept saying you couldn't do it, but you delayed and you delayed and you delayed so that you could announce it as close to the election as possible. That is cynical, because you're now saying you can happily commit for the next 4 years, whereas when we had this conversation last summer, you were saying you couldn't even commit for another year. It's cynical.
Well, that's not the view of Londoners on May the 2nd.
But they were expecting you to have a plan. I think they'd be surprised to hear today that you don't have a plan to fund it. That was on the basis of you telling them that you had a funding pledge and you were going to commit to it, and you're telling me today you don't know how you're funding it.
That's really not what I said, Chair. What I said is...
Then how are you funding it?
What I said, Chair, is we publish details of the budget during the course of the year when those budgets are published, and I'll be doing that again for next year.
So can we have a clue? You must be looking at certain pots of money and thinking that's where it's going to come from. Well,
Chair, I'm surprised that the member doesn't realise that during the course of the year we're publishing the budget guidance, we're publishing the draft budget, the consolidated budget, and later on during the course of the year we'll be publishing details of 25-26.
I think it's quite clear the Mayor doesn't have a clue or a plan.